each other.
Facts. So we'll actually get right into the subject matter of today. Well, first and foremost, thanks everybody if you're watching this or if you're listening to this for taking the time to, invest in yourself. That doesn't get, kudos for you. We definitely need to start making time to invest into ourselves, and things like this is how we do that. But first and foremost, me and you, obviously it's just two of us in here, AP, but we can just kind of give insight about what brought us here, why are we here, and what exactly we're interested in learning. You want to start us off, or you want me to go first on that?
You can go first, then I'll follow.
She was like, I need some time.
Get my thoughts together.
Right. No, that's fair. So for me, I wanted to start this one because like I've hired some coaches, I've hired some mentors, and it was valuable. But also in my experience with basketball, it's a lot easier to go through a process when you know that somebody else is going through it with you. If you're talking about a weight loss journey, hey, I got stuck at, 230 pounds, like, and I just can't seem to drop anymore. Oh, me too. It happened to me too. Well, my trainer said, do this. Okay, let me try that. So the ability to go through a certain process and be able to bounce ideas off one another. I mean, you talk about saving us a lot of time, energy, and effort to be able to have other people help us figure things out so we don't have to go through it on our own. I think that that's very powerful and very unique. So that's why I wanted to create a group that we could help each other. So that's, I guess, what am I looking to get out of it? I guess one of my main pain points is event management, project management, collaborations, building out teams, organizational structure, that type of things. I'm more of like an ideas guy, but putting people in position to execute those ideas is something I sometimes struggle with. So that'd be something I'm looking to get a better feel for and get a better knowledge of. What about yourself?
Well, definitely for me, I've been in the rebuilding process since COVID because doing consulting, I mean, COVID, shut everything down for a while. And then it was dealing with the economy and not having the money to use out of state contacts or out of area contacts anymore and having to balance all of those things. It's really tough when you are in those crisis situations, whether it's rebuilding or a complete stop. If you don't have a support system, like how do you motivate yourself when it seems like there's no way to pick it back up? Like that's the biggest thing I've noticed since I've finally everything has gotten to a place where I can refocus. It's suddenly all of the pieces are coming together. I'm finding that there are people on similar paths, and so the more we talk and the more we like throughout the week or whatever about our own specific journeys, it's motivating because they're doing it, I'm doing it, and even though it's a completely different journey, it's like, okay, I'm not on this road by myself. I've got people who, when I hit this brick wall, can be like, all right, here's a way you might want to try to go around it. Like just that group of people who understands what you're going through and understands those struggles and can, it's everything that we've been talking about with this, whether it's sharing ideas of things that they've done or things that work for them or just strategies, education, things like that. Having that, even if I'm doing it by myself, which actually now I have somebody who's gonna work the business with me. So that's something I didn't have before. It's still better to have more than just one person around, because then what happens if neither of us have a clue and we're both like, so the group is just helpful because it's a great place to learn from other people, and that's the biggest thing I want to get out of it is like I can read all of the books, I can do continuing education, I can take professional certification courses, I can do all of those things, but nothing is more valuable sometimes than experience. And it doesn't have to be your own. It can be from somebody else who has done it and knows a better way to do it instead of having to read all of this stuff and figuring out how to implement it for you. So I definitely want to get that knowledge from other people to be able to pick and choose what works for my system and apply it to make mine better.
Yeah. I know. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. for sure. And hopefully we can kind of create that environment with this group. I really do think, once we start to grow it and people start to come, I think that impact that we're all seeking and that value that we're looking for, I think we'll get. But today's topic is going to be primarily time management and our priorities. So I'm going to play like a 10-minute clip. I'll share my screen right now. Play a 10-minute clip. Well, it's 20 minutes long, but I'm only going to play it to about the 10-minute mark. And then we'll just kind of discuss and maybe take a couple minutes to actually reflect about our own priorities and how we plan our week. And we can have some dialogue there. So I'm going to let this rock out. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
If you fail to plan,
Yep.
then you've planned to fail. You've set yourself up for failure. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can effectively not only plan, but set up your weeks and organize your weeks so that you're getting way more done every day and every week. Let's start with the first concept or quote, that you should never start your day until it's finished on paper. That's a quote from Jim Rohn. Never start your day until it's finished on paper. So I'm going to start with the day, but then we'll go into the week, and then we'll probably revert back to the day. You should never have started a day without having planned it out effectively. The problem is that 98% of people or 99% of people, rather than going to bed with a plan and thinking about their future self and who they want to be, and then going to bed and letting their subconscious actually create their future self. We all know this. 99% of people look at their smartphones within 10 minutes of bed. 95 or more percent of people are staring at their phone while in bed. And also there's a lot of research that shows that people procrastinate sleep because they're scrolling. One of the best things you could possibly do is go to bed an hour earlier than you probably are right now so that you can get up an hour earlier. A great quote is that if you lose an hour in the morning, you'll spend the rest of your day trying to find it. I think that's Richard Waitley. So if you waste that first hour of your morning, you're going to spend the rest of your day trying to find it. And so rather than wasting your day, rather than wasting your evening and pushing off sleep and essentially setting up your future self for disaster the next morning, go to bed an hour earlier. Put your phone on airplane mode 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed and pull out your journal. Never start the day until it's finished on paper. Actually take the time to reflect on the day, measure your gains, as Dan Sullivan and I would say, measure your progress. But what the research actually shows is that taking the time to write down 3 things you're grateful for at the end of the day, it not only boosts your happiness, but it boosts your sleep. So you could do that. You could take the time to actually reflect on 3 things you're grateful for from that day, but you could also find 3 gains from that day or 3 wins. They might not have been the 3 forms of progress you were looking to make, but what were 3 things that happened that day that show that you made progress? It could be something you learned, or it could be an experience you had with a loved one. What are 3 things that you're happy happened and that reflect gains or progress or wins? And then just write down what are the 3 most important things you could do for the next day. And that actually now takes me forward to weekly planning, but also just a much higher core concept in general. You obviously, just like you would want to give yourself space right before going to bed where you could plan your next day. And I would say no more than 3 priorities. Never have more than 3 items on your to-do list each day. And on a daily basis, those items on your to-do list should actually be pretty small. They should be very easy to do. So BJ Fogg, the Stanford psychologist, he talks a lot about, tiny habits, essentially. Even James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, talks about the importance of scaling the behavior down. When you're planning, when you're visualizing, when you're making your dreams, you want to be as ambitious as possible. And it's actually true. Your view of your future is what's driving your present. And so you want a massive future self. But when it comes to daily progress, you really want to scale it down so that it's extremely small, extremely doable, because you can actually commit to something small. And so when it comes to your 3 core priorities for each day, which you come up with the night before in your journal with your phone on airplane mode, and then you go to bed probably an hour earlier than you're used to going to, so you can actually wake up and get working on your future self. Make sure that those 3 items in your to-do list are important, not urgent. They're things towards your future self. They're not like activities or behaviors that are like going to a work meeting. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about 1 or 2 or 3 important activities that are not urgent, that could easily be forgotten or lost, but that if you invest that time and that energy, and if you make that improvement, or if you actually work on them, you're building towards your desired future self. It's an important investment towards your future self. Now, when it comes to the week, just like you would on the daily basis, where you'd give yourself 5 to 15 minutes, probably on the weekend, it could be a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you'd want to take 15 to 30 minutes to reflect on your week and actually reflect on your progress, reflect on your gratitude, reflect on what actually happened. And then you'd want to make plans about what you wanted to accomplish the next week. What could be the most important thing you could accomplish? And just like on the daily, you would have no more than 3 items on your weekly to-do list. What are the 3 most important things you can accomplish? Of course, you're going to do more things. Of course, you're going to go to the grocery store, or you're going to have other activities, but what are the 3 most important, not urgent things you could do towards your future self? Let me give a little bit more context. In order to actually live effective days and effective weeks, you have to have a clear sense of purpose and mission. Without a clear sense of purpose towards your future, you're going to waste your present. That's one of the things that Viktor Frankl, the psychologist and Holocaust survivor, found. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. Without a sense of purpose towards your future, the present becomes meaningless and the present becomes wasted. Without a clear sense of purpose towards your future, you decay mentally, spiritually, and physically in the present. And in today's ultra distracting environment, if you don't have a clear sense of purpose and mission that you're committed to and working towards on a daily basis, then you're going to be wasting your present. You're going to let enormous amounts of inputs come in. The world is filled with distraction. And if you're not clear on your sense of purpose and mission, then you're going to waste your present because you're going to let all sorts of distractions derail you. And I would say that that's probably where a lot of people are in their life, because they're not clear and committed on a future that they're excited about and committed to, and that they believe is a sense of purpose. The present is pretty meaningless and distracted, and your input shapes your outlook, and your outlook shapes your performance. And because people are not clear on their future and they don't have a sense of purpose, they're not finding effective inputs. They're not deliberately practicing, as psychologists would say. They're not actually finding the information they need to achieve their goals. Instead, they're being swamped by information that's completely random. And that randomized information is shaping their belief system, and it's distracting them. People are decaying and wasting away in the present because they have no purpose for their future. This is what's really important as well. Whatever view you hold of your future is the thing driving your present. And as a rule, most people are being driven by very short-term, very narrow versions of their future. They don't have a long-term vision and purpose that they're working towards that's important, not urgent. Instead, most people's future is urgent. It's just getting through the end of the workday, or getting to the weekend, getting to the grocery store. Like, most people's goals are so immediate. They're putting out just immediate fires, as Robert Greene would say, that they're not lifting their gaze and being committed to a longer term future self. And so before you can even live effective weeks and days, you actually need to know your bigger picture purpose. This isn't your sense of purpose for your whole life. It's like, what's your purpose right now? This could be for the next year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. If you don't have a clear sense of purpose and mission, then your present is wasted and it's distracted and you're wasting it. And so the first thing you need to actually do is you need to ask yourself, what is my purpose right now? What's the most important thing I could be focusing on right now? Or what do I want for my future? Let's just call it 3 to 5 years from now. What's the most important thing that I could be creating or building? Or what does life want of me right now? Those are some really important questions. And I would invite you to not think more than like 5 years out. Although obviously you could track upwards and think like, where do you want to be in 10, 20 years? But when it comes to your sense of purpose right now and who you want your future self to be right now, what is the most important thing that you could create or do right now that you feel like life is asking of you? You might have something inside of you that you've wanted to do for years. Maybe it's learn a musical instrument. Maybe it's travel the world. Could be honestly raising your kids or preparing for retirement, whatever it is. What is life asking of you right now? Getting really clear on that sense of purpose so that you can actually use your present effectively, so you can actually drive your present effectively and have meaning in your present, but also have purpose in your present. So who is your future self? Let's just call it 3 to 5 years from now. And what are your core 3 priorities? Jim Collins in the book Good to Great said, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none. And so what I would invite you to consider is, what are the 3 key areas of your life where you want to focus your most energy and attention and really massively grow those 3 areas? For me, right now, my core 3 areas of focus, or my core 3 priorities, are my family/faith, and then my writing books, and also money. So basically my purpose or my vision for my next 3 to 5 years is to really invest big, especially in my older 3 kids, but also in my faith and in my family. Like, that's my number 1 priority. The second one for me is 10xing myself as an author. I've written multiple books, but I want to go 10x bigger as an author. My former self, me like five or so years ago, my purpose was to become a professional author, but now I am that. And so my purpose now is to 10x as an author. And again, your purpose is what you choose, but it's what gives you purpose in your life and also meaning in what you're doing. The third one for me is 10xing my wealth, or 10xing my money. And again, these are just my 3, but I invite you to ask yourself, what are your 3 core priorities? What are your 3 priorities in life? What are the 3 buckets of life that matter more to you right now, and that you really feel like a sense of purpose and mission towards, so that you can really start focusing and investing in those areas and growing those areas? What are the areas of life that you really want to go big in right now, and that will give you a sense of purpose, a sense of mission? If you can get clear on your purpose and you can define it into 3 core priorities, then you can start using your present effectively. Then you can start having more meaning and purpose in your present. Then you can clear the clutter and you can start focusing and actually designing your environment, designing your inputs. Your input shapes your outlook, but you can't get the right inputs if you're not clear on what you want. You can't deliberately practice. You can't learn. It's, as an example, let's just say that your purpose is to get really good at real estate and to invest a lot in real estate and to create financial freedom. If that's a clear purpose, then you can start actually getting the right inputs. You can actually start investing in mentorships or coaching programs or reading books or watching YouTube videos that will teach you how to start making those deals. But if you don't have that clear sense of purpose, you're just going to be swamped with information and distraction. So step 1, clarify your future self. Who do you want to be? What is your sense of purpose and mission? Set 3 core priorities. What are the 3 areas of your life where you're going to go big and invest? And then from there, you can set specific quantifiable, measurable goals. As an example for me, as one example, I'm going to be publishing 2 new books in 2022. And I also want my books to pass 1 million sales. And so like those are specific goals that I can.
All right. So information dense, but I'm sure a lot of that stuff we've heard before, right? Like we've,
I was gonna say, it's crazy how the more books you read about businesses and setting them up, the more the information overlaps, which is just, it's that neon sign that says, this is what you should be doing. And if you're not, you're an idiot, because everybody who's successful is doing these things.
Yo, and it's so funny because like as entrepreneurs, like we want to take over the world. So like I was literally planning my day like about 30, 40 minutes ago, and I got about 8 things on my list. Like overachieving, just trying to stress ourselves out, stress myself out, trying to do too much. But before we get into kind of an open dialogue, kind of wanted to know, and if you don't have an answer for this, because I don't even know if I have an answer for this, but what would you say your purpose is right now? Like over the next, he said, what, through the next up to 5 years? What does that look like for you?
The finances would be my biggest priority right now, paying down debt and increasing savings so that I can be in a place to do the things that I want to do without having to take the budget quite as, I mean, I'm always going to budget because otherwise you'll lose the money that you have, but not to be so strict and not to, what can I cut? What do I have to do? Like having that set up so that there is that safety net again. So finances for sure. Getting my own business back on track, because my job is a law firm. That's not my career. That's not my life. Like I have my own goals. It's to get the own business back up and running to the point where, you know what, maybe that's actually my full-time gig in 5 years. Maybe I'm not paying other people full-time, but if it's what I'm doing, then that leads to hiring actual full-time employees in the next 5 years. So those are 2 of them. And the third is one of the things I've been prioritizing highly since the beginning of the year. And I do not believe in New Year's resolutions, because I think any time is an appropriate time for change. It's just end of the year kind of correlated with all of my major problems kind of being resolved and finally having some peace and quiet is like self-care is a priority, because that's something like we've heard this over and over and over again, and society's bad about drilling this. The grind never stops, 24/7, yada, yada. It's bullshit. Balance is one of the most important things, because if we're exhausted, our mind isn't functioning the way it is supposed to be. We're not as productive. The things that we are doing isn't to our best capability. And ever since I've started prioritizing self-care, and it comes in eating habits, it comes in actually making myself drink more water instead of living off of caffeine, because that's the side effect. You push yourself harder, you don't prioritize sleep and, the things that keep you rested, then you're supplementing caffeine for water, or, vice versa. It's it's actually being active during the week and in an intentional way, not just, oh, let me go work out for a half hour, and it's making it routine. It's prioritizing actual sleep. It's, all of these different things. It's prioritizing time to just sit still, and whether it's read a book that has nothing to do with business or work, like just something mindless, or just sit outside by the water or something like that. Like those are part of like my self-care priorities right now. And since I've been doing that, my productivity levels have just increased. Like the work that I'm putting out is better than it ever was, because my brain can process and can put all of these things together because it's ready to go. So
Mhm.
those would be my three things that for the next 5 years, like these are the things that I want to become routine, that I want to become not just visions, but reality.
Mhm. Poetry
So your
snatch.
turn.
That was, I give you some poetry snatch for that. That was good. That was good.
You've got
Uh,
to have at least one or two things, even if it's not all three,
yeah.
or one thing.
Well, I know the one thing, and I've been thinking about it for quite a while, but I haven't really mapped the plan out for it, is I want to, and it's not as clear as I would like it, but I want to make a bigger impact in the lives of youth. How do I plan on doing that? I mean, I have things that I want to put in place, like, eventually, starting my own school, starting my own program, because I noticed some of the flaws in the education basketball development system,
Oh yeah.
where, and people don't know, it's actually not as hard as you would think to start a school. Obviously, you got to have the funding and people in place, but it's like, yo, I could impact a lot of people outside of basketball. That's my first priority, is kind of like that second act after basketball. Like, definitely don't want to say I've mastered it, but like
Yeah.
I learned how to use basketball as a means to make revenue. But like,
Mhm.
what about some of these other skills that I
Yeah.
have? The second thing, financially, um, I've done a really good job of reducing my debt. I just took on more debt, to continue to fund the business and hire the staff that I need to. But just becoming more financially aware, especially the tax laws,
Mhm.
and planning, purchases and different things around that, and actually understanding how the taxes work. So financially, investments and things like that. My goal is to buy a house within the next year, rental property. And then the last one, I think I'm gonna go with you on that, is that like self-care, because that's been like my motto, is like grind, hustle, we got to get to it, we got to get to it. And I'm noticing it days where I work at Lifetime, I work until midnight. For example, last night I get up at 8:30, and it's like, oh my goodness, like the morning's basically over now. Like, so I'm starting to realize, like, yes, like maybe it's worth, maybe it's like, how much is my time worth? Is it worth a couple bucks an hour, to go work for somebody else? Or is it worth it to actually go to sleep an hour early, to
Yeah.
wake up an hour early, to get stuff done? So
And not just your time, but your health, because our bodies aren't built for long term go, 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 go. And that's what is an American society. That's what we push ourselves towards. And
yeah,
look at look at the way people's health declines as they get older, because your body's just not set up for that. It needs things that we haven't been giving it.
yeah, yeah. Especially that, and like lumping that in with the self-care is like taking the Sabbath, taking a Sabbath. It doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
Saturday or a Sunday, but like just
A day of
taking a
rest.
day where I'm just not chilling. Like I said, I'm just not chilling. I'm just not doing work. I'm just chilling. Like I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
Like this weekend, I actually kind of had like 2 half days where, I was hanging out with my girlfriend and her family.
Mhm.
And I was hanging out with her niece. I think we had like a movie night. We didn't have a movie night, but we just chilled.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I know you said three priorities, but maybe it's in the self-care, but like planning my weeks and my days. Like I notice if I don't do that, I don't feel like I'm making progress,
Mhm.
because I'm just doing. I'm just
There's no direction.
there's no sense of purpose, there's no path, there's no clarity, there's no like, but yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah. Um, Yeah, thank you for sharing. I was in my own head for a second. I was like, all right, let me step out of my own head for a second. We get to the point in the session where we talk about personal pain points, Q&A. I like this section. I actually learned like this tool. There was this men's group I was in. It's specifically for like mental health and obviously just helping men become better.
Mhm.
Levels of intervention though, like I just want to vent. I just want somebody to hear me out. Because as entrepreneurs, who we gonna vent to? Can't vent to our customers. Can't vent to our bosses because the customers are the bosses.
And you also should never complain down. That's one of the last books I read. You never complain down, because why do people want to work for you if it's always so miserable? So you're really an island by yourself in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely that level 1. We'll see how often that card gets pulled, just the vent. Level 2 is I want to vent, but I actually want some constructive feedback on how I can make this better. And then level 3, like I need somebody to make a decision for me. I don't know how to act in this. Like somebody make this decision for me. Did you want to start us off or you want me to rock out?
I'm going to have you rock out because you're better versed in this in terms of like the pain points thing, because this is something you've done before. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. I feel you. So for myself, I would say a level 2, like I mentioned earlier in the call, event project management, I'm not the greatest at. So I've had this idea for a while that, hey, like when I go to travel places, I want to put on clinics in the places that I travel to. So that way, I'm making revenue to subsidize the traveling, but then I'm also impacting people. Where I get caught up is I'm like, okay, we need this, we need a flyer, we need event registration, we need this. And then now I'm trying to delegate everything. And then I get so one track minded on one part of it, whether that be, hey, I get one track minded on the flyer or the registration form or, and I totally neglect that. Oh, snap, like you got to get park permits. Like, oh, snap, like you got to actually send these marketing materials out. Like, who are you promoting it to? Like, is there somebody you want to be? So that's one of my pain points is like, I know the product's good and I know the concept is good and I know it's going to work, low profit margin, all the stuff, like all the things are great, but it's trying to get myself to like manage these projects better. And I'm not quite sure how to do it. I got, what's the 21st? I got like less than 10 days to try to market some stuff to get some kids in Tampa, Orlando, and Atlanta. I have some help, but like those other two, it's just kind of like, we'll see what happens. It was very late, because I'm very spontaneous. I just made the decision a month ago, but that's my pain point is trying to organize events. Yeah, I don't know if there's any, I know I didn't ask for specific feedback. And that at any point, like as somebody's talking, if you want to offer feedback, you can always respectfully probe as long as they're open to it. But yeah, I would say that that's my main pain point is just event management and staying on top of those longer term projects because it's not as urgent. Yeah. I'm not sure, like, it's just the pain point. So I guess it's more so of a level 1. I mean, I'm definitely taking the steps to fix it, but yeah, I would say like in the long term, like, are there any tricks, tools, hacks, planners, like, like I don't know, but that's my pain point right now. Yeah. What about yourself?
Hold on, I'm going to pause there. You realize you have a whole network of people in Orlando, right?
Yeah, I do, but that's a whole thing of like,
or is it a competition thing?
Well, it's kind of a competition thing, but it's kind of like, like when I was down there, like people affiliated me with Heart and Hustle, which was the organization I was working with. So like now that I'm going that or the Ace League, but like now that I'm going back, it's like, are you still affiliated like with these two? And it's like, no, it's like my own thing. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's I don't know. It's a weird situation. Obviously the competition definitely plays a part. So Orlando's dense, but but
I mean, to take yourself away from it. You just add on your flyers formerly of Heart and Hustle. Because then that already says that you're doing something on your own.
Mm.
It separates you, it associates you with what people know you for, but it takes you away from them in the current standpoint.
I see.
So wording changes everything. I mean, play what has you well known there. Don't ignore that and don't try to sell yourself as it, but use it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I got to tap into that network thing too. I'm such a I'll do it myself type of person.
But
That
you entrepreneurs cannot be if we want to get it right. This is why we're creating this group, because we need that network. The network is there for a reason. If we have it and if it's established and if there's somebody who can help us with something, we can't be afraid to ask for help. Screw pride, screw that I'm going to do it myself mentality. If it's not, if you're unable to finish something on your own, you have to start pulling from people who can help you get it done. And I get it, because I struggle with that too. That's probably one of my biggest things. I am a product of my grandmother in this sense of the term, because my grandmother was one of the first women in broadcasting. So in that day and age, you can imagine she had to do a lot of things herself if she wanted it done, because she had to earn the reputation. But she was definitely a doer. And so I have a lot of that in me. Like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna get it done. But that's the thing I've been trying to work on myself, is actually asking for help, not being afraid to pull those resources that I have and those people that I have in place. What is the point of that network? What is the point of mentors? What is the point of any of these people if we don't ever utilize them? Because we can't do everything ourselves. If we could, we'd already be where we want to be right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm complete. What about yourself? Any pain points or any things that we'll cap it at like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll get some closing words and hop off.
Wow. I mean, still not 100% familiar with the whole pain points thing, so I don't even know if I would answer this question correctly.
Well, like pain points, I like to call them opportunities. So it's like something that you're currently going through that's like pulling you, you know what I mean? Like it's forcing you to become a version of yourself that you're really not familiar with. You know, it's a new challenge. So I just called it personal pain points, but I like to call them like opportunities, you know, like highs and lows. Like if there's a low point or opportunity, like what is that opportunity? Like, what is it that you want to improve on? What is it that, you know, you want change because it's, you know, a thorn. Maybe that's a better analogy, like a thorn in your side.
I guess mine would probably be staying disciplined, because I think and I'm sure you'll resonate with this some in basketball or athletics. I think one of the things that we have become so great at, which can be an asset, is just like doing stuff on the fly. It's adjusting at the last moment, because so much of that world is unpredictable. And the funniest thing to me is the higher I've gotten in it, the more and I'm talking NBA levels and everything, the more chaotic it is, the more unpredictable it is, and the more things change at the last minute. So you're used to just kind of like flying by the seat of your pants. And if you're trying to establish a solid business, I can't do that. Like, I have to be disciplined in my approach. I have to be disciplined in getting stuff done. I have to have timelines. I have to have a plan. I have to put this stuff together well, because if I'm flying by the seat of my pants and I put out a half-assed product, then that's the reputation I'm stuck with. You have one chance to make a first impression. That's something that someone told me along the way, and it's something that has just stuck with me. If it's not right, people are going to remember that, and that's the thing that's going to be the hardest to overcome. And so that's the thing I'm working on that is definitely my struggle right now, is just staying disciplined when all of the chaos is happening, still having some kind of plan. I mean, you have to be flexible and you have to adjust in some senses, but you also still have to have direction. There has to be some kind of structure inside of that chaos.
Mhm. I see. And then just for clarification, is that more of like a what level of support are you seeking? Is it just more of a venting, you need some words, you need,
Probably halfway between the level
Yeah.
1 and the level 2, because a lot of times it's just venting so that I can just brain dump and move on. But
process it.
sometimes sometimes it is like, okay, I'm stuck. So help me out. What am I missing here?
Yeah.
What do you see that I don't?
Yeah. Tough. I think it's I think that maybe the second half of that video might help you out. And no, honestly, like planning the days and weeks and like having it
No,
in the
and that's, I mean, that's something I've been tracking my weeks since the beginning of the year, like writing everything down and what I'm getting accomplished each day. And like I can't set up daily goals because my schedule is just too chaotic for that. And like last week I had week goals and I got most of them done, but I couldn't reach them because it is, I mean, if I'm working multiple things, then I can't always predict the time that I'm going to have in a day, and things change.
right.
But I've been setting up weekly things and tracking that. And so it is something I have been, that's part of my, I'm going to make myself more disciplined. I'm going to start tracking this so I can see the progress, so that I can see, oh, wow, look at these last few weeks, look at everything I've done, and look at where I am now. It kind of pushes me to move forward. So that's definitely something I have already started, but will love to watch the rest of the video to see if there's anything I can add to it to make it better.
Word. No, this is that you're already taking those steps. And it's hard too, is that that book Atomic Habits that he talked about. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but he talks about like those small things that you do. Like it's, what is it? I think you got to get some momentum first before you start seeing the actual progress.
Yeah.
Like you're doing it and it's like, all right, yeah, I'm doing it, but like nothing's happening. And then bam, out of nowhere, right? So I from hearing it, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're doing all the right things and like you're going in the right way, but you just kind of want, well, it's not like you even said like it was like an urgent thing, right? But it was just, yeah.
It's just the patience of seeing it through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we're coming to a close, we got about 1 minute left. For those who are listening and stay with us to the end, I appreciate y'all. Don't really have any last words because Zoom's gonna kick us off with a quickness, but AP, I appreciate you hopping on. This was definitely impactful for me. I definitely got some gems out of it, and hopefully
Appreciate you for running it.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a team. It definitely does. Definitely takes a team. I gotta have somebody hold me accountable with my 17 item to-do list. Me narrow that down to 3. But,
Good luck.
right. But AP, have a good one. And
You too.
the listeners out there, peace.